right, so now let's talk about all of the amazing things in Canada and all of the good things in Canada. All of the things that you don't worry about. You've got number one, obviously, and I will always go back to that, but it is what it is. It's security, the safety and security. We oftentimes still go around, and I say to Belinda, can you imagine doing that? What was it the other day? We dropped Angelique off at 10 o'clock at Park Royale because she and her friends were going to go watch a late night movie, and then after that they're going to the friend's house to go sleep over there. And we drove up there and we dropped her off. Now, we don't drop her off at the movies. If it was South Africa, you would drop her off where you can see her go into the movies. Over here, we just drop her off on the road on the opposite side of Park Royale because we know she's got to be safe. She went to the movie and they went to the beach. It's a different world. I mean, if you're South African, and I don't know, I can't speak for many other places in the world, but if you're South African, the ability to be almost 100% sure your kid is safe and you are safe and that nothing is going to happen. It's a different feeling. You just honestly don't. You honestly don't. It's hard to explain to other South Africans. When we left South Africa, it took us almost 2 years before we finally started relaxing. In the sense that we could actually start doing stuff and not looking over our shoulders the whole time. Because the reality is, in South Africa, that's what you do. And you don't even know it. I mean, you're literally always on high alert because it's needed, unfortunately. Where here, it's not. It is so weird. It's so funny. I mean, we hear noises at night in the house. And I've said this before, in South Africa, if I hear a noise at night in the house, the first instinct is to get the Glock out of the safe and then start checking security cameras and making sure all the security gates are locked and everything is done. And with good reason. I mean, we had break-ins, we had armed robbery, we had a bunch of shit go down at our house. So that would be our first thing. If you drive back to your home at night and there's a car behind you, you pass your gate and you do another loop and come back in because you don't know if it's people following you. That's the kind of life we live in South Africa. And I know that there's some South Africans that don't see it and they don't actually even realize it, I think. Oftentimes you don't realize how on edge you are and how much you look around. But it is what it is. Over here, that doesn't exist. I mean, we lie in bed at night and we hear a loud noise, and it's we don't even, at one stage we were still like, oh, it's probably just one of the kids. Now we don't even bother. We don't wake up, we don't check, we don't bother, we just don't. We know it's fine, we're safe, we don't care. Last year when we went to South Africa in August, it was so weird, so funny actually. Funny, weird, sad, whatever you want to call it. So, we had the plans to go to South Africa in August, and about a month before we left, I don't know, it just started happening gradually. Suddenly I started worrying about, well, what's going to happen if we're not in Canada or if we're not at home? We're going to be gone for 3 weeks. What's going to happen to the house? What if somebody breaks in? And it just started like that. I just started worrying about that. And I was like, hang on a sec, I at first, because we have a safe, at first I was like, okay, well, the safe is the main thing. So I checked with friends, can we store the safe at your place while we were gone? And then I started thinking, sure, my computer, it's valuable, and what if somebody steals my computer? So can we store the computer somewhere? And then I was like, well, you know what, let's just get security cameras. So I put in cameras around the house, and then I put cameras inside the house, and I just kind of lost my freaking mind, to be honest. And I caught myself just before we left, and I was like, what the heck is going on with you? You're living in West Vancouver. The amount of burglaries or break-ins in West Vancouver compared to the amount of houses, the odds are I mean, it's not zero, but the odds of somebody breaking into your house is virtually, well, it's very tiny, put it that way. But, and then I started thinking about it, and then I realized, oh, it's all about that. It's just that. I'm going back to South Africa, so my brain remembers the time in South Africa, and now it starts being on edge. It starts looking for shit to go down. And the same when we were in South Africa. We were like, I mean, it was fun and it was great, and we friends and family and all of that. But at the same time, we were on edge. Now, I know, you get people that say, well, it's not like that. It was really in South Africa. We're still safe because we live in a complex, or we didn't have any issues. Well, great for you. If you haven't had any issues, awesome, man. Hope it stays that way. For us, it wasn't. For us, we had issues. For us, we had guns in our faces, and we had stuff that went down, and it's like, you don't forget it, it's just like, it's not fun, it's just not fun. And we had break-ins, and we had situations, and it's just like, well, it happened, what can we say? And once it starts happening to you, you kind of, you start going, maybe this is not cool. So anyway, all right, so basically, where was I at? So while I'm driving, I'm thinking too much and talking too much, I guess. But yeah, safety is definitely the number one factor. That's the number one factor we would stay in Canada for, is the safety. Having said that, you see a lot of stories on the news. The safety is becoming worse. There's a lot of car thefts. The government actually turned around recently, beginning of this year, and said, they've realized that there's a huge amount of car thefts in Canada, and they're now putting together a team to look into it, which is they're putting together a committee, which I suppose is a good start. But you don't need to put together a committee, you just need to go to the freaking ports and check and stop the criminals from moving the cars out. That's so simple as it is. It was a funny one. There was one guy that had 2 air tags in his car, and his car got stolen in Toronto, I think. And he had 2 air tags in his car. So he was tracking his car. He went to the cops, and he's like, well, I know where my car is. It's stolen. I know where it is. So he tracked it into a shipping container at the port of Montreal. It's like the car is there at the port of Montreal in a shipping container, about to get loaded onto the ship. And he was telling the cops, the car isn't there, do something, I want to go fetch my car. And they said, no, you can't. And then anyway, tracked it to a second-hand car dealership in Dubai. The car got shipped out of Port of Montreal, and it ended up in Dubai in a second-hand car dealership. The car is there. So what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not rocket science. I hope the committee they put together figures it out. I mean, there's not that many places you can go with stolen cars from Canada, because you can't use it inside Canada. I mean, the rules, I suppose you can, but it's not, you're going to get caught at some stage. It has to go out of the country, and there's only a few places it can go out of the country, through the port of Montreal or the port of Vancouver, or drive through the borders. So, just like stop them there. Anyway, besides the point, the reality is, crime is on the rise in Canada, but it's not serious crime, and it's not hate crimes, if I can put it that way. It's mostly car thefts and, poor people stealing and guys pillaging, and obviously there is some violent crime. There are some violent crime. It happens. Very minimally though, and if something happens, you hear about it on the news. And oftentimes those violent crimes are mostly fueled through drugs or drug-induced situations, or mental problems, people that are not all there. So yeah, but I mean, compared to South Africa, still minimal. Can't compare it. I still feel 100% safe. So that's the first very good thing.